for their kids or their family.
Mom, turn that off. You just literally, I was like, that just almost blew my ear out.
I don't know what to hit.
Really terrified.
I can't. Mom.
Paul, you're asking a lot, dear.
Oh, there should be something that looks like a bell that says notifications. Click on that.
Yep.
Good job. I'm really proud of you.
I don't know if it'll work.
This has to be an episode in itself, having a 50-plus-year-old woman try to navigate.
Yeah.
Well, that's actually super entertaining for a podcast. I'm not going to lie.
Hello. Welcome back to another episode of Hold On, I'm Calling My Mom podcast. I realized I haven't really given introduction to myself when I'm like, hi, this is Paul, but I assume that if anybody's listening, they know my name.
Everybody know you, Paul.
Yeah. And this is my gorgeous, stunning, radiant mother. Say hi, Mom.
Hi. We're at it again.
Hold on, I want to redo that. No, that's fine. I'm fine. Why? Where you gotta go?
I gotta work all weekend. I want to relax.
I feel like I just was with you, and it's because I was.
You were. We did
Barb,
a week in LA.
She was living her best life out on the streets of WeHo, turn it up. There. Oh, we got the apple dance. Let's talk about that, because you want to talk about some traumatic shit. We did our first TikTok ever.
We did, and I've been wanting to do a TikTok for a long, since Carol Baskin.
If I hear that one more time, she's been trying to. She wanted to do Savage like 4 years ago, and we never gave her the opportunity.
Never.
I can't let Meg down like that. But I was like, Charlie, we're gonna step it up. Barb, get into it, and we're gonna do the apple dance. So me, Brett, Jordy, and my mother did the apple dance, and I'm gonna say it took a little work.
Just a little.
I would say maybe teetering on.
We're not all good with directions.
An hour and a half. There might have been some arguments. There might have been some tears. There might have been on some toes that were stepped
Creating differences.
Yeah. We did succeed, and we got one take that we all agreed on.
We might have did the dance. We're all very serious and concentrating, but we're all doing it correctly.
Yeah, there was some. You can look at everybody's face. They were like, "Wipe the fuck out!" By that point,
this is it.
We're like, "This is the last one. Everyone, step it up, do it, get it right." Yeah. Jordy was eating it up, serving choreo per usual. So there was no question about that. But we were out in WeHo once again. We were at High Tops and the Abbey. We made our rounds, and my brother's best friend, who's like a family friend to us, we love her, adore her. It was her first time in LA, so we're like, we got to give her the WeHo tour.
The funny thing was, the whole time that we were there, I was the tour guide. So I was like, I'm going to tell you, I was very proud of myself. Like, I was the actual tour guide of taking her all these places. I was we got to go here.
Where'd you guys hit?
Well, I made reservations for us to do like the car, the bus 2-hour tour kind of thing.
Yeah, so Barb was on a Ponzi scheme. They're like, hey, we're right at La Brea and Fairfax. Hey, this is Lindsay Lohan's house. Coincidentally, Christina Aguilera lives next door to her. And then Leonardo DiCaprio. We got duped our first time we came to LA, and we went on one of those bullshit Hollywood tours.
This one seemed a little more
established.
Yes.
Okay, we'll take it.
We did Mulholland Drive, let's talk about Mulholland Drive, the later part. So we decided to do a late night Mulholland Drive.
No, yes.
All of the people that are listening that don't know, Mulholland Drive is a mountain. It's
in the canyon, and it's like an iconic, road, if you want to call it.
Go all the way up to the top, and the view is overlooking the whole LA County. Is it just LA County?
I mean, like, you get to see the beautiful LA city skyline, and it's gorgeous.
Gorgeous at night. Beautiful. And I think it was like a full moon that night and stuff too, wasn't it?
Yeah, so we're like, hey, let's go take I thought it was a perfect way to top the night of what we did. I forget where we even were coming from, but I was like, let's do this. So to Madre, yeah, we had a nice little dinner, and we're like, hey, let's get into this, and let's give her let's give Sydney, shout out to Sydney, the the tour of like to actually see it.
Yeah,
I thought
I
it was
had
a great
done
idea.
that before too, and it's gorgeous. But I don't think we went as late as we went this time.
So we drove.
First of all, Paul's driving. That's a whole other episode. Well, that's going to be an episode because we literally were all like this.
No, you guys were not white knuckling. You guys were doing
We
too
were
much.
white knuckling. You can't see us in the back. Whole other episode.
You hit a couple bumps on the way there, and they think it's like an earth. I'm like, relax, we're fine, we're getting there.
Anyway, not. But we go all the way up there. It's dark.
I decided that we're gonna go to Runyon because I was trying to find a cute place to pull over.
I picked the place.
Oh, you did do it. Okay, shout out. Okay, all right, damn. So she's like, let's go to Runyon. I'm like, great idea. Let's do it. Because there's all these like little nooks you can pull over. And I'm like, we should just go and pull in there because it's open to the public. Like, why not?
Right.
So it's like 10 o'clock there. You get some kooky LA people that are there late at night. I think it was like 10:30.
Yeah, it was a little later. Yeah.
And Brett and my mom and Sydney are scared like they never seen people out this like, oh my God, there's people out here walking. I'm like, yes, it's LA. Of course there's people that are
on a canyon. There's no lights, there's no nothing. There's gorgeous homes. They're all surrounded. It's not like they're shining lights onto. It's a dirt road, people. It's a dirt road.
I can't. So I'm like, all right, let's keep walking a little bit. I don't even think the people want to know that Barb popped the squat on Runyon.
Stop! I had to go. Don't cut that. We're not even using that. Absolutely not.
I had to pee. I go off to the side. Brett has to pee. Sydney has to pee. Everyone has to pee. So everyone's pissing on Runyon.
We were marking our territory. And we had to, apparently, because...
So we go over to this really cute little bench. Not everybody thinking we're out here pissing on Runyon.
Yeah.
Listen, the drive up was, I guess.
He made me piss myself. That's how bad it was.
We get up to Runyon and I thought we heard howling. Like at one point, I
100% howling, the screechy noise, like a little, like barking little, because they're what, coyotes? Is that what we were saying?
See, girl, you don't even know what they are. You're scared of them. So I look over and I see like, we're taking like cute pics and like Sydney's eating it up. And I see two medium-sized, like they are like a little dog and then like a little puppy.
They're not a little dog.
Yes, they were.
The size of Jordy's dogs.
No, they were not that big.
Absolutely.
No, they're like the size of like a beagle.
No, it was of them.
They were the size. It was two and a baby.
3.
No, it wasn't. And they were the size of a beagle.
They were not a size of what the hell?
Okay, you would have thought that it was a goddamn mountain lion, tiger.
They were not the size of a beagle. They were definitely bigger than a beagle. Absolutely.
Yes. And they were so quick to trot out that they didn't even pay attention to us. But you and Brett are like, oh my God.
I'm like pick up rocks. Pick up rocks. Get sticks. I had 2 handfuls of rocks.
I'm like, what do you think this is going to do? Like, they're not going to run up on us.
It's dark out. And then you hear the dogs from the people's houses all barking.
And all startled up. Yeah, from you guys yelling.
It was from them. They were going around going to try to get dinner. They were
Let me tell you, these coyotes were sleek as hell. Like, they were sharp. They were like point A to point B, and they were out of sight.
Really were. They were.
So you guys thought it was like I was like, I never seen people react to coyotes like this ever in my life. So we were like making our way back. Everyone's like
used to deer.
Yeah.
Not coyotes. We're used
everyone's
to
like looking around. They're like, oh my God. I'm like, you would have thought we were in the Blair Witch Project. So we made it out alive from there. There were no coyotes in sight. And the guy that you guys were confused about, he's in there getting his steps in still. It's going on 11 o'clock, just walking down Runyon, not a care in the world. This is normal for people. And you guys were making it seem like you were in this like jungle safari. It was crazy. And the best way to top it off was Barb got a compliment from a gay that came up to her. You are so pretty. You look like Meryl Streep in the best way. I'm like,
the whole thing, the way you were just sitting there, and I'm like, oh, thank you.
you really did look like her character in Mamma Mia.
And that's what he was saying. He was like the dress and everything, because it was like a very florally kind of sundress. Yeah.
So Barb was getting eaten alive by the gays, which if you get a compliment from them, you're in good graces. So you were welcomed into their home, which was great. Which I think is super funny, how we were kind of talking about Sydney and Brett, like they're in an area that's a little bit more not so outwardly like LA, where it's like you go up the street and you get everybody, different types of people and just so much culture and WeHo. And it's just really fun to be able to like experience that with you and like have my brother out there. And how amazing that you guys are able to come out, we're able to do this and, have conversations. We're talking to my mom about the first time we ever knew, we watched gay porn and, we're being very honest.
At the Abbey, all these conversations were.
Yeah, at the Abbey, out of all places, the Pink Pony Club.
We were just like is that the Pink Pony Club?
I mean, I kind of feel like the Pink Pony Club can be
anywhere. I
anywhere.
meant to ask you, like, what is that song? Like, I love it. It was so cute.
I take it as just like she was out and WeHo like fucking it up, and she's saying like you could be at High Tops, like maybe that's the Pink Pony Club.
Okay.
Like
whatever is your place to be.
Yeah, I wouldn't necessarily say it was the Abbey, but like to me, if I'm having a good time I don't know, if I'm dancing in WeHo, that's the Pink Pony Club, wherever that's at.
Okay.
But I thought, it was really a beautiful thing to have you a part. And like, I love having my mom be in like these gay queer spaces and, be a part of it. And I thought today was like the perfect opportunity to bring on Lena and Sal Osborne. I've known them for quite some time. They're really lovely and they're so informative and enlightening of their story. I mean, they started off as Mormons married to men that ended up coming out after they left the church, fell in love with each other, now have 7 kids together, and they really help people come out and really own their authenticity and who they are and reclaim that. And I think it's a beautiful thing to have more people that are willing to, have people come out and just own who they are. So I'm excited.
Looking forward to meeting them. Yeah, just by watching their show, it's just a connection that I see between them. So to be able to meet them on here and talk to them is going to be really, I think, a great episode. Yeah.
I'm excited. So let's welcome Lena and Sal Osborne. I'm wearing this shirt because this is going to be the gayest episode yet. So I was like, I'm representing.
Yes. Yes.
Feels very perfect. I'm so happy to have you guys on from the Peace Out podcast, Mormon No More on Hulu. You guys are yoga, meditation, extraordinaires, and the work that you do in the LGBTQ plus community. I wanted to welcome, obviously, the lovely Lena and Sal Osborne to the podcast.
Thank you. We're so happy to be here on it.
I know. Well, you guys know how much I adore you guys. I love your story from former Mormons to, being previously married to men, ended up getting connected after leaving the church, now living together in Orange County with 7 kids. There's just so much. And I'm like, if that's not an introduction to like, let people know what you guys are working with, I don't know what is.
Oh, thank you so much. Yeah. I think something that we have sort of recognized about ourselves is that having a niche isn't necessarily a bad thing. What I have found that people needed was like representation and visibility. When we were filming the show, we could feel the energy of it. Like, this isn't really about us. This is for everyone who could relate to any person in the show, right? To any concept of, the family dynamics, queer, conservative, parent to child, divorce. Like, there's so much there that people can relate with. And it has really been so awesome to get the feedback from people. I've never seen a story that feels so relatable to me. I've never been able to be represented. Now I can show this to my family and they can understand more about me. I just feel really lucky to be able to do that and just share my story and help people to see themselves and have the courage to make moves when otherwise they didn't know that they were allowed to. It's kind of like we're giving people permission to do things differently.
For people who are listening, I love your story. There's so many layers to it. Could you tell us a little bit about your stories coming out and like how full circle you guys got connected with one another?
I ended up in Provo, Utah and went on a Mormon mission and converted to Mormonism. And she grew up in the church. So we both happened to just coincidentally get married the same year to men in meeting them in Provo in 2005. And we ended up staying married to them the same amount of time. So 13 years. And when her and I met in the fall of 2018, we were both married to our husbands, and we met at church, even though she had already left.
She was still active in the church.
Yeah, I was still at that time very much a Mormon woman.
And Sally, you were not.
Sally had just left.
I rolled in with a shaved head and a fuck you energy.
Yeah, for sure. I certainly was taken aback, and like I was very curious about her energy, and I thought she was queer from the beginning, so it made me feel a little uneasy, because that deep down closeted queer self inside of me, who really hadn't come to light at all yet, was just like, that's interesting. Like something in my body was like, what is that? I like that, you know? And, but then I saw her husband there. And so I was thinking, okay, like, I guess she's straight. I don't know. So we started hanging out as mom friends, and like hung out all the time, like 3-4 days a week with our kids. We'd gone on like a camping trip with our families and our husbands, and became pretty close before we finally like realized there was something happening. And she was Googling, like, what does it mean when you can't stop thinking about your friend? And I mean, we were just so
yeah.
Meanwhile, I'm over here like, you're definitely flirting with me, you know? Like, and so when she did eventually confront me, I told her that, like, I'm pretty sure you've been coming on to me. And she's like, huh? And I'm like, well, I'm pretty sure I like it too. So it was nice though, because at that time, even though, you know, it's hard to come to terms with your sexuality at that point when you know you're in a marriage. And for me, I was still very Mormon, extremely out of body experience, not really knowing how to handle the situation, but deep down knowing I had to honor myself, and my authenticity was just rising to the surface. And I felt like this, I don't know, like this phoenix coming from the ashes moment. Thankfully, I was like brave enough and courageous enough pretty quickly there to tell my now ex-husband, and we went through the process of divorce. Meanwhile, she was also going through that on her end with her ex. And it took a while, obviously, to just like figure out how to make this all happen. And we just kind of dove in head first. And we've been together over 5 years now.
It didn't take long, actually.
We were for the like dynamic
very short amount of time compared to what most people do. Is what I've found out now that I've worked with people. We are an exception to the rule. Most people have to deal with this for years before they are able to like kind of like get out of the web of basically obligation and conditioning, saying like, you got married, you made your bed, you're stuck there, you know, you can't do this, that's selfish, that's wrong. So many people like will come out to their husbands, and then their husbands will be like, okay, well, and then it'll be like they never talked about it, and years will go by, and then there will be affairs, or there will be, you know, a situation where they just try to make it work, and it's a lot of suffering, it's a lot of complicated, messy stuff. I didn't know that this happened so frequently. Like I think people are surprised to be like, well, how did you not know you were gay at this age? I didn't have any experience. Like I could not explore at all. I barely dated before I got married. I was just turned 20 years old. I'm a freaking child. And then once you get married, you just turn it off. And you're like, I guess this is what married people are like. You don't really like sex. You're not really attracted to your partner, but you just, you know, pull yourself up by your bootstraps and raise kids and be Mormon.
That's all you knew. Yeah.
Yeah. We did not know we were queer, and it was terrifying and exhilarating simultaneously. It was a lot of emotions on all the sides of the spectrum at the same time. So it was very overwhelming and pretty gut wrenching, you know, to have to like change your family and be like, okay, this is not going to look anything like I thought it was, like at all. I didn't plan on getting divorced.
So I guess my question then, because I asked Paul this question a lot, he didn't come out till he was 20.
20, yeah.
Yeah. So I
thought that was really late at the time, to be honest. I was like, oh my God, like they're, you know, now when I see kids that are younger than me that are like owning who they are at such a young age, I'm like, fuck, I wish I had that much, you know, guts back then to do something like that.
But one of my questions to him was, and I still talk about it, like, did you ever feel like there just wasn't like those feelings, and then questioning them and be like, you know, that whole process in your head. Like at 20, you just weren't like, okay, you know, I'm gay. Like there had to be like little things in your head of like, oh, this doesn't seem like the norm.
Hindsight.
Yeah, I don't think I realized until I was fully out and self-actualized as a queer person that I gave myself the time and space to really go back and think about my childhood and what it would have been like and how I like played the mental gymnastics. Because now that I think about it, I'm like, okay, if I was thinking about being queer and the possibility of being queer that many times throughout my childhood, like I was fucking queer. I just, you know, the world just didn't tell me that I was, because I wasn't represented whatsoever in the media as a femme presenting queer person until Portia de Rossi. And by that time, I think I was married. So, you know, it really didn't help me at all to not have anyone look like me.
And also, it's the worst thing that you could be. In our society, especially in my culture growing up, having a gay kid is the worst thing a parent can have. It's like your big trial in your life. It's like your kid having cancer. Yeah. Like no joke. And so when that would creep up in me, I would shut it down. Like I would find reasons for it to not be true because it was the worst possible outcome. So there's no way I would have like admitted that to myself, even if I did like have inklings. Cause hindsight, I was a super tomboy. Not that means you're gay, but I was not.
You wanted to wear a baseball outfit, not the tutu.
Oh, absolutely. My mom has lots of stories about that.
Well, I mean, I'm like, you're talking to somebody who would wear the shoulder off the, you know, the top, you know, sleeve off the shoulder. Adorable. You know, I was repping the Spice Girls back then. That's why I was like, this is very fitting, full circle. I think for me, like, it was more of like, I don't want to say this until I fucking know 100%. This is what it is. You go on a website and you start clicking something, and then you end up on another site and you're like, I like this more than when I'm actually started, you know, watching AK Straight Porn. And I'm like, you know, and then you start seeing the guys, and then that's where that happens. Well, am I just curious, or, you know, and then you don't really have anybody to talk to, especially like, I mean, your walk of life is very different than mine, but like growing up in a small town, you know, there were not many gay people openly out. So it's like, you kind of just keep that stuff bottled in, because I'm like, I'm not going to be labeled. I hate to say it as like the gay kid, because I'm so much more than that. I don't know. I just never felt like my representation was out there. So I think for me, it was really like, I'm not striking until like I'm 100% committed, because I'm not going to be like, oh, well, I sucked a dick. Okay, now I'm taking it back. I'm not gay anymore. I'm like, I'm 100% owning that. I'm like, I'm in this, you know?
Yeah.
So yeah, when he told me, I cried, but I didn't cry because I was like, oh my gosh, my son's gay. I cried because I'm like, oh my gosh, how long have you been keeping this in and feeling torn inside? And I want you to be like, I cried out of like that kind of, you know what I mean? Like
totally love and compassion.
Yeah. That, you know, how long have you been carrying this that you didn't feel comfortable to come out and say it, and all those kind of emotions. Yeah. Because I always kind of knew it in a sense, but it was for him to come out. And
sure.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Thank you. Yeah. I said, well, you know, and I do feel lucky in these situations, because I said, like, you know, I'm lucky to like have a mom that's very understanding, but like you guys, your work now, full circle, you guys essentially help people coming out of the closet. I'm curious what type of patients, and I mean, maybe you could set it up for people listening, the work that you do now about people like testing the waters, kind of like how I was feeling. They're not 100%, you know, 1 foot in, 1 foot out. Like, what is the type of work you guys are doing now and helping people come out and own their true authenticity?
Yeah. I mean, sometimes it's kind of the idea of like the chicken and the egg, you know, which is first. So I try to encourage people to get to know themselves on a deeper level. You don't want to hear those voices from other places. You want to hear your own. It's hard to connect to that voice beneath your thoughts because there's societal pressures, there's familial pressures along with religious. And so I think that's step one, in my opinion. You know, once you go through your existential crisis, it's like, how do you come back home to yourself? And for me, I encourage people to start with like meditation and breath work and mindfulness. And then for Sally, I mean, her work is really unique and special. And I find like anytime we kind of play ping pong with the clients, like I pass them on to her, she passes them on to me, because what we do really works hand in hand, yin and yang energy.
People think they need help with like the actual nuts and bolts of coming out. And sure, they do, but it's more about going deeper and loving yourself enough to be honest with yourself and to really get in touch with that part of you that believes you're worthy and that you deserve love, that you deserve to be someone that gets their needs met, that gets to live to match their insides with their outsides, that they don't have to just sacrifice their happiness. Being able to live authentically and have your outsides match what you feel on the inside is something that we are all deserving of. And a lot of people don't believe that about themselves. That's not what they were taught. They were taught to conform and to obey and to get in line and to do what's best for the whole, not for the individual. I mean, I had a lot of people tell me that I was selfish. I had people say, you know, true joy is when you serve others and you give your life to other people. And what I've come to find is that grounding myself in my own joy and my own alignment is the way that I can fully give the most to other people. When I am in alignment with myself and I have full authenticity, that's when my vibrations are going to just go in and do the most good for my children, for my ex-husband, for my family, for my community. And it is a painful process. There is loss, there is grieving, there is difficulty, and it's worth it. You choose repression and depression, or you choose authenticity and having to have hard conversations and having to stand up for something that you believe in. I choose that. So typically when a client can get to that place of feeling worthy and being honest with themselves and believing that they're deserving of a life of happiness, then the other stuff comes more naturally and it flows. And I walk them through that. They still have a lot of fear, but when you prepare them for anything, then whatever happens is okay.
So somebody is having these feelings, they are contemplating coming out, they come to you guys. Is it all walks of ages? Is it people like, what kind of clients, do you guys get that are interested in doing this?
I think it's really probably a surprise to everyone, but every possible age. I mean, we get parents even who are recommending their children to us. And then we have people late into their, sunset years reaching out and wanting to come out later in life. And so anyone, any age. And we work with, the whole LGBTQ community, trans included. So it's really such an honor. I feel so lucky, so lucky to do what we do.
Do you feel this was where your journey was meant to be?
Totally. 100%. I think I felt it like the moment we got together. I was like, okay, people need to know that they're not alone. Let's start a podcast. And then the show came and I was like, okay, people need to know. It was just, let's keep getting the word out there. Let's keep practicing that feeling of discomfort, because on the other side of that discomfort is a whole lot of freedom and sovereignty for people. And when the show finally did come out internationally, I mean, I'm still getting messages from all over the world, every single age that really relate to our experience,
in terms of when people are coming out and they come to see you, what are the hardest people that you think? Is it friends? Is it parents? I would assume being an outsider would be more parents seem to be the hardest hurdle for people to come out to and, be honest with. Is that what you guys typically see?
I will say that, yes, it is mostly the difficulty of judgment of parents and your extended family. But if you're married, that's by far the hardest part. If you're married already and you have to reorganize your family and go through divorce and coming out to your kids and putting them into houses and all that, it's by far much more complicated and messy and long-term than anything else. I don't think people understand how difficult it is. And it's like a lifelong decision that changes many, many people's lives, not just your own.
It takes a while to figure this all out. The dynamic of the family, and when she's saying reorganizing, it's thinking of it more of as an and than an or. So recognizing that our family isn't just 9, but that we have 11 with our ex-husbands, and that when we get together for holidays or for whatever, it's like we want as much of them as possible because our kids didn't choose this and they shouldn't be punished for a family being reorganized. And if you can come together and overcome your own ego and your own, discomfort, then you can show up as your highest self and show up for your kids the way that they deserve.
I love that word, reorganize. That's a great way instead of, other words that could be.
Yeah. I don't like the word broken because I get broken down.
Yeah. I guess that's, yeah.
I'm curious of this, so that, people on the younger side or maybe even older, do you guys ever work with parents of children or people who are coming out as well? Like, do you guys bring in family members?
If they are willing to.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I haven't come across very many that want to.
Aw, that's
So
I'm curious because, like, my mom obviously was very, very supportive about me coming out and, owning who I was, and was very supportive of that. But in a way, when you think about it, when straight people are conditioned that you grow up, you get married, if you're a guy, to a girl. If you're a girl, you get married to a guy. You have this white picket fence with children. You live happily ever after. Do you guys ever come encounter with parents or people who are kind of mourning their idea of their children's lives as they come out as some form in the queer spectrum?
When I do hear from parents, it's not from a place of grieving. It's very similar to your mom, where they feel like they're asking for resources. How do I support my child? And if it's grief, it's like grief around the child not feeling safe enough to tell them. So I think if they're following us and they followed our story, they're more likely to align with this idea of allyship and inclusivity versus, those who are on the other side of the spectrum, which thankfully there's people in the Mormon church and ex-Mormon community who've created this incredible nonprofit called Encircle. It's for queer kids and their parents, and there's tons of resources and free therapy, and there's homes speckled all across like the West. And so, and if you don't live out here, if you don't live in Utah or Las Vegas, where there are Encircle homes, they have incredible online resources as well. And so does Mama Dragons, which is another nonprofit created also by Mormons and ex-Mormon moms of queer kids.
I'm sure it was very hard for both of you then to go to your parents.
Yeah. That's what I was talking about, like doing your own work. Because when you go to your parents, if you are dependent on their positive reaction to being okay, or to being okay with you being gay, like, don't come out yet. Like, feel safe like you did. Like, feel very safe and secure in who you are, because we can't control other people. We cannot depend on other people's choices to be who we are. We be who we are, and then we decide who we want in our life and what our boundaries are going to be. So that takes work to get to that place. And it's not to say, what your parents think about you is always going to affect you till you die. Like, you're never going to be unaffected. In people that say they are, there's that little child inside you that still wants your parents to love you and approve you. Yeah. But coming out to my parents, I had come out of the church, and leaving the church, telling your parents that you're leaving the Mormon church is similar to coming out as queer. It's as if you're choosing the wrong path and you're going to not be in heaven with your parents anymore, because
it's a death. It's a real death for Mormon families to lose.
It's a betrayal,
like a wayward child.
It's like a betrayal of your parents. So I did that, and that was really hard. That was like a really difficult conversation, and lots of crying, and lots of, like, they didn't respond super well to that. And so when I came out of the closet a year and a half later, my mom said, this is my second chance to, like, do a better job, to not be
that's amazing.
That is amazing.
Yeah. And she did really well, and she was very kind, and it took everybody some, adjustment time for sure, but they were very kind and very loving. It was awkward for sure.
I think something that maybe she's underestimating, though, is how powerful she went into that conversation, because she really advocated for herself and sat down with her mom and said, like, I really can't have you give me your opinion right now. Like, I just want you to hear me and listen.
Right. I'm not coming to you for approval. I'm just letting you know, kind of conversation.
Exactly.
I knew I was fragile, and I also didn't want her to have to say something that she would regret later, because I knew she cares about how she shows up for me. And it was asking for that was for both of us, not just for me.
Yeah.
I don't know about you guys, but anytime there's a commercial where it's like a gay couple or just something, you think everybody in the room's like looking at you and they just think that you're doing that. Like, you're like, oh my gosh, gay sex, kissing. Like, I always felt that way. I don't know if you guys ever felt that way, but it takes a while to like own into that, where you're like, yeah, that's who I am. You know, I always felt like it was kind of like everyone's looking at you. And
dude, we are the loudest gays ever. We are. That's why we can do this work. We're like, fuck yeah, gay couple. We're watching this show.
I love that.
And also, you know, I think I have a lot of empathy for you coming out at 20. That is very young. And it's a time in your life when you really don't know who you are yet. You haven't established your values and what's super important to you. So yeah, I have a lot of respect for the courage that it took for you to do that in that state. And I'm sure it felt like all eyes were on you, where for us, we were, you know, in our 30s, we had a bunch of kids. We, you know, our lives were exposed. The whole neighborhood hated us. It was just the whole shit show, you know? So like at that point it was like, well, fuck what anyone thinks about me. We're very used to being ostracized now and stared at and all that.
I was going to say, you guys are like, I'm going to conservative Orange County. I'm going to make motherfuckers real mad. That's what's going to happen.
We do.
We're walking activist billboards, just going outside.
Yeah.
But your energy is just amazing. Like just together, like just like it, I can just see why when you two saw each other, it was just like, yes.
Thank you.
Totally. Yeah.
I love that because I still feel that way for her. She makes
I can tell you guys still like giggly with each other and just lean into each other. And I love it. I love it.
I do too. You can tell you guys have a real love between. That's why I was like, you guys are the perfect people to have and talk about this. But since you guys brought up the kids, I'm curious, you know, having so many kids, like I would say the misconception of you guys, like, you know, where people, I don't know, like, you know, I think always about if one day I choose to have a child, right? Like there's a lot of misconceptions about gay parents and like, oh, you're going to make your kid gay or, you know, something. Like, what do you guys have to say about having all these kids, raising them, you know, in
experiences that you've had with that? Yeah.
Go to my Instagram page and see the many posts that I've posted about this because it's bullshit. Like, the idea that this is bad for kids, who came up with that? There's no, like, I'm not going to turn my kids gay because my parents raised me to be straight.
Right.
So
that's when, like, it's so the subtle nuance. Like, I'm like, like say that for the people who like, come on.
It doesn't make any sense. And it is very like antiquated and just ridiculous, honestly.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think I am so in awe and wonder of our kids that when they're not around, we spend most of our time just talking about them because they're 7 of the most unique, loving. I mean, I'm sure everyone thinks that about their kids, but I'm just so enamored by how they see the world. And when they say things to me about, you know, what someone thinks or what they believe, and they have questions about it, it's like, that's not a question I would have ever been able to ask as a child, you know? And to have it be met with love and for me to not judge them for how they process information and know that they're safe coming to me to flush things out. And I love seeing the little activism, the little activists in each of them and how they stick up for one another and how they, you know, protect the family. And I don't know, it's just really fascinating and like really, truly beautiful. I love it.
Do they have a lot of questions from your past? Like, do you bring that into conversations all the time or?
I've been in therapy for many, many years. And so I have always worked really hand in hand with my therapist on how to have these conversations with the kids and when it's developmentally appropriate. And the most fascinating part about the process, honestly, is that children lead all the conversations. And when they're ready to know, they will ask. Yeah. But yeah, we don't shy away from conversations at our house, even at the dinner table. You know, we want to make sure they feel as comfortable and safe as possible and know that this is an open home and that if they like hear something at school, we want to be the ones that they talk to about it, you know, not asking their friends because their friends are not going to give them the answers that we want them to.
Absolutely.
They're super empowered. They don't they don't get like nervous about stuff because they're like informed and they know they can ask anything they want. We told them when we came out, I explained to my kids, I did not know I was gay. I couldn't have known. And now I know. So this is going to make, mom happier, and we're just going to expand our family and have more love. And if you're sad, I understand. And you can be sad and happy. You can, you can feel all your feelings. And then, it's just been going since then. And I think at least the culture that I grew up in, everything was, don't talk about that. Like that's taboo. Like this topic is awkward, or,
sweep that under the rug.
That is not the vibe that we are creating in this home. It's just open and curious. And it's not that we don't have values, because we definitely do, but it's based on what feels good.
Well, just think of, that's the generation you're raising now. So just think when they're your age or my age, how hopefully this world will be.
My mom, she's gonna hate me for this, but she's in her 50s.
Okay, just say in my 50s.
You guys, I believe you said you're in your 40s, right?
She's 38.
38. Okay, so
42. I'm 42.
So I'm not trying to push Sal closer to that way, but like, and then I'm like, I'm 31. So to me, I'm like, it's really cool to see like 50, 40, 30 and see how each era kind of had the differences of like how we have all.
Absolutely.
Yeah. For sure.
And
you're the one we need to look to.
Your kids' generation who we need to look to.
Yeah.
That's true.
What would you say is the biggest helpful tip for, somebody who wants to come out and be their free, self, or for somebody looking to help somebody out? Like my mom, like she said earlier, she didn't, it wasn't for her to say, I know you're gay, come, like, hurry up and, come out. But somebody was looking to maybe help this person. They see it ahead of time and say, hey, you're going to get, made fun of in school, or you're going to have a rough upbringing. Like, are there ways that you guys feel are certain techniques to tackle something like that?
I mean, I think that allowing someone to come out in their own time is really important, and honoring that journey. But if you would, and this is how I sort of go about this with the people that I talk to and teach, is that it is so important to show your allyship. So wearing like a pride pin on your lapel or on your bag, having a pride flag out, not just for July, but like actually showing your community and your family, even if it's like a nephew or something, letting them know, like, I volunteer for the Trevor Project, or getting involved in your community makes the person who is queer feel so much more safe and able to come out, because that's the biggest part of it, is needing someone, even if it's just one person in your family that you feel safe enough to come out to. That's going to be the ticket, don't you think?
Yeah, for sure. And making queer friends, bringing gay people around, telling your kids what you think about queer people, telling them how you believe, like straight up, like
using the language of
I just want everyone to know that I love all the queer people in my life, that I want them to have every right, that, and even directly, if I have, for my kids, I'll say, hey, listen, I want you to explore. I want you to figure out who you are. I don't want you to pigeonhole yourself. And you are 100%. And obviously, I mean,
it's like using your language in your
safe.
home to match your beliefs. So like, saying something like, have you thought about like a boy or a girl you want to take to the dance yet? Like a person, like giving yourself, I don't know, just the language. The language is so important.
The non boxed in language.
Yes.
There are a lot of cool shows on like streaming services, like Heartstopper and
Sex in the City. No, I'm just kidding.
So finding media that you can watch together that is inclusive and allowing conversations to just organically start up. If you do those things, your kid's gonna be safe enough, and like telling them, hey, I'm here to talk about anything, anytime, just not being awkward and avoidant. Like,
I say Sex in the City because as a gay kid, like, you put it on upstairs and I'm like, I felt like I shouldn't be watching this, but I'm doing it. And I remember going downstairs to like the dinner table and I'm like, Mom, what's a camel toe? And I'm like, so young. And she's like, how do you, like, you shouldn't even be watching that. I mean, now it's funny to laugh at. But
we laughed about it, but then it just was like, what? Again, my upbringing was like, I would have never said that to my parents.
I think that'll be hilarious. That would
Mom,
be
what's
hilarious.
I
would tell.
So good.
See,
Paul, that's so good.
Put that in my
mortified. I was like, what?
Seriously, if one of my kids asked me that, I would tell them exactly what it is.
I would show them. I would be like, hey, let me tell you, this is what it is.
I mean, that's a huge thing is like body positivity. Like I'm reading a puberty book with my middle schooler and it talks about all the details and it's like so refreshing to just
all the developmental stuff for kids is so important. And we were just all of our whole generation was just shamed from that, you know?
Yeah, absolutely.
No questions are bad questions.
A book by my mom and she was like, here. And I was like, what is this? Questions.
Well, just even like what you guys were saying, like, you know, we just had a family friend of ours. She's a lesbian. She's like my brother's best friend, came out and, you know, she lives in a part of like Florida that is not like, oh, you're going, you know, crazy with the gays and like, you're not in that environment. So like her first time in LA coming to West Hollywood, it's like, oh my gosh, this is like a fairy tale land because everybody's gay and like you're seeing every type of character, you know.
Yeah.
So
you know, we did downtown WeHo on a Saturday night.
Yes, queen.
It's like Disneyland.
WeHo.
And I literally turned to her and I said, have you ever seen so many gay people? And she was like, no. Like culture shock, you know, like it was a lot. To me now, I'm like, oh, I love it. Hi, guys. And I know everybody. And
awesome.
They come up and tell me I look like Meryl Streep. But hey, you know.
I was like, we'll just take in the gay giving you a compliment. They're coming from a loving place.
Absolutely.
But like that really goes on brand to what you guys are saying about the exposure, having those conversations and really, you know, just stepping out of your comfort zone just goes such a long way in terms of.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely.
I mean, at my age, you know, people that I'm around that are my age, they'll say things and I try to really now be very conscious of educating them using the correct terms, you know, or they'll just umbrella, oh, they're gay. And I'll be like, no, let's use, you know, LGBTQ plus community, you know.
Barb's getting the people right in South Jersey.
I do. I try to do my best and my diligence.
Good job, Mom.
That's amazing. People that really truly underestimate the impact in our community just by like opening up your mouth or complimenting someone that's wearing like a pride flag, you know.
Absolutely.
It goes so far.
It goes so far. I mean, sometimes they just look at me like, oh, here she goes again, but that's okay.
I want everybody to check you guys. Like, where can people find you guys? You guys have so much going on. I want people who are listening to follow you guys, know what you guys are up to, lay it on them.
So sallyandlena@gmail.com is our email address if you have questions or want to reach out about any of our upcoming events. You can also find all of that on sallyandlena.com. And then our Instagrams are coming out coach for Sal and Lena _Osborne.
You better plug it. I always am like, we got to
follow her today.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. It was so nice to just sit with you and talk to you.
I love you guys. I just feel such great energy. You guys, your journey, you're just meant to be doing what you're doing.
Aww.
Yeah.
I appreciate that. It feels like a big mom hug.
It does feel like a big mom hug.
Teary-eyed. I'm married to one person, but I really yeah.
Feels good. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
We need it.
Thank you guys. I appreciate it. I was like, if we're doing a coming out, like a full episode, I'm bringing you two on. So thank you so much. And we're going out with a bang. So
I guess I didn't do it right.
Thank you guys so much for doing this.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye, guys.
All right.
Thank
bye.
you.
Yeah.
Girl.
I don't know why that's happening. I don't know. It's connected to his text messages. It comes on his iPad and his phone.
Did you hear that?
Yeah, that was you.
I'm sick of this shit. All right. Love you. Bye.
All right, girl. Bye.
I'm like, I need water. Yeah. I'm like, I need water. I'm sweating. Thanks for tuning in. And we will see you guys next episode.
All right. I'm hanging up now. Bye.